This segment is brought to you by Terrebonne Ford. Built Ford tough. All right, welcome back to Good Vibes. I'm Martin False. This is Debbie Cox de Nova. She's in the house. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All right, cool deal. I'm seeing making impact. Now, that is such a broad statement. I'm going, where is Debbie going with this? Guess I'm going to find out, right?
Absolutely.
All right, what's it all about?
I think we all want to feel like we're making an impact in life somehow, whether we're talking about relationships or work. You know, everywhere we go, we want to make sure that we are feeling like what we contribute to an experience is actually making an impact, that we matter. Right now, a lot of this information comes from Liz Wiseman, who wrote a book called Impact Players. And of course, she borrows from the sports analogy. When you have an impact player, right, this is the player that gets the ball when the stakes are high. They are the critical players that actually will secure a win for the team more often than not. Okay, so we know what that looks like in sports, and it's the same in every other arena. And when we're talking about work, for example, there are also impact players who come into play. Now, there is as you probably already know, because we've talked about this before, there's a burnout epidemic happening. And burnout is a very specific experience of like, there is a different level of depletion that is happening. It's like this inexplicable, like, I'm so tired, right? And you would think, what would you think would be driving a burnout epidemic?
People who've been in their job for a while have to work harder because it's generational.
Okay.
Generation people don't want to work as much.
In a way, you're right, actually. You know, a lot of people would assume that people who are in burnout are just working too hard. But the research actually shows that is not the case. It's not about overworking. It's about the level of impact that their actual work has on. So when the research looks at people who are working a lot and they're working at a job, for example, where their skills are not being utilized, where they're not being acknowledged for their work. Remember, this is something really important for happiness. One of the major components of work is to be able to say the work that I do is meaningful, you know? So when they talk to people who are maybe even making good money, but their skills are not being used, they're not being acknowledged, when they ask them what that work feels like, they say it's just frustrating, you know, it's depleting, it's exhausting. Those are the words that are used. Whereas when they interview people who are in jobs where they're just going nonstop and working, however, every bit of their skills, their knowledge, their expertise, their IQ is being maximized. When you talk to those people, what they say is it's exhilarating, it's exciting, it's passionate, I love it, right? So this is not about whether or not we're working hard, it's about how we're applying our work. And what they've figured out is that people who are impact players in the workplace do something very specific. When there's something big and ambiguous and hairy and difficult to a difficult challenge, what the average player will do is move back. Maybe even run away, right?
Right.
So, but impact players do the opposite. They actually move toward the heat. So it's much like, Wiseman says, it's much like a surfer would dive into the wave, right? To get on the other side of the wave so they can maximize on the opportunity of riding the wave. Impact players tend to do that. And that is a very big distinction between them and the ordinary player, right? So they're moving through because when they move into the heat, if you will, what they are able to do is actually make a real big difference in the organization as a whole. It's like, wait, where's the problem here? And how can we innovate to actually create something that makes things better for the entire team as a whole? Now, what has been found is that it's not because they work harder. The research actually shows that they're not working harder. They're just working differently. And the difference comes down to mindset. The ordinary worker says, I am going to do my job. And that is about competence and discipline, right? So it's kind of like, here's the box, the boundary from like, they hired me to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to deliver on X, Y, Z, and I'm going to do a good job at doing that. So competence and diligence. But the impact player has a different mindset. They're that what they think is, I'm going to do the job that is needed. And that's a very important distinction, because rather than coming from a place of just competence and diligence, they're coming from a place of service, which means that they identify the places where the heat is. They identify the places of problems, and they're the ones who actually move toward, remember the other ones are moving back. That's not my job. I'm doing my job, right? Those are the ones who are actually moving toward the heat, and they're innovating for the way that we can actually change the system so it works better for everyone. So that's why they are the key players. Now, this obviously takes a level of insight, and it can be harder in a way. But once you become that type of person, if you're at home and you're wondering, okay, what does this look like in my world? If you can actually step back and look, where can I be at service and actually showing up to change the whole, what you're going to find is that, yes, it's challenging, but what's going to happen is that because you're in the heat, the critical place, what tends to happen is that funds tend to flow in that direction, and there is help that follows, because everybody knows that if we can resolve this, then we can actually make the whole better. So starting to look at where your skills can be utilized, where you can actually be of the most impact with your specific characteristics and skills and traits, but then also scanning for the heat and moving into the wave rather than pulling back from it is really important.
In football, we used to call that, you could tell the players who were good practice players, and then some were mediocre practice players, but when the lights went on Friday night in the stadium, they became really good.
Yeah.
They were seeking the heat.
Yes, absolutely. Moving toward instead of away. And that's a big difference.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. Making Impact. It's all next. This segment was brought to you by Terrebonne Ford. Built Ford tough. All right, welcome back. We're with Debbie Cox DeNova. It's Good Vibes. We're talking about making impact. All right, Debbie, I was thinking during the break. So you got an overachiever.
Yeah.
And you got somebody who's just talented. That's could be. We use sports as an example, but it could be in life. The overachiever always wants to make an impact. The super talented person, maybe one day he plays, one day he doesn't excel. But the overachiever is always looking to overachieve.
Yeah. And so that comes to, and when you're talking about overachieving, what you're typically looking at is someone who has a target in mind, right? This is a really important thing, is that when you're looking to make impact, what impact are you looking to make in general, right? Because you want to be able to say, okay, like what is the larger picture here, and be able to visualize it for yourself, and focusing on this specific target. This is what I want to make happen, right? Now, once you've identified that target, then you have to make sure you have that right attitude for it, because people who are overachievers, or achievers just in general, they have a belief in themselves that I can do this. Right? If you don't believe that you can do that, and check yourself underneath, you won't have the motivation to continue on through this tough stuff, which brings you to the next point, which is persistence. Persistence is really important, but it's not just like consistency. It's like persistence is the kind of thing where on the days that you're bored, on the days that it's frustrating, on the days it doesn't feel good, that's the difference maker. Those people who are able to actually go, okay, I believe this is going to happen. I believe that I can do this, and I'm going to actually keep going, even though right now it doesn't feel good. And it hasn't felt good for a little while, right? People who are able to push through. And then someone who's able to make real big impact understands that big impact most often is reliant on the small little things, right? So it's like you have somebody who is really fit, right? They know that as soon as they get started, right, that first workout, you go, you exercise, you look in the mirror, you're not going to notice anything, right? You go the next day, do it again, you look in the mirror, you're not going to notice anything. But it's the cumulative effects of those small steps with consistency, with persistence, that actually start to build and add up. Same thing about brushing your teeth every day, right? Like going to the dentist, twice a year is not enough to maintain your teeth. You need to actually be on a daily basis, twice a day, brushing your teeth and flossing and doing the things to maintain your teeth. And that's how you get to same thing with relationships even, right? The relationships that are the best, it's those little, just average moments, right? Like you're grabbing a glass of water for her when you're grabbing a glass of water for yourself. Those are the things that kind of add up to that experience of a great relationship over time. It's not just those big bang, like, let's go on a vacation together or let's celebrate your birthday. Like it's those small average moments. And in organizations and team, like, or even buildings, right? It's like if you skip the small steps, you could skip one tiny, small, critical step, and the integrity of the entire building is compromised because of that one small step. You can neglect one small part of your business, and because that one little part is being neglected, it can bring down the entire organization. So it's really like the small stuff, really paying attention and making sure that you're in there for the stuff that really matters, that's going to build to the bigger picture.
Yeah, we harp on that over here as far as the little things, or the lights in place, or the clock's pointed the right way, or the microphones all there without a buzz, or the light's right. It's, if one of them's not right, it affects the show.
It absolutely does. It affects the whole picture. So there's a coach called Yasser Khan who is a coach for CEOs and leaders for impact. And he has an acronym because he talks about how in your communications with people, it's not about what you say, it's about what they remember, right? So he has an acronym and it's SHARE, right? And SHARE stands for stand out. So just a little bit different from the crowd is going to make people's brains, because we see a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. And the brain just kind of goes, oh, I've seen this before, and it doesn't remember. If it stands out just a little bit, that's when we go, oh, and we pay attention. H is for highlight what's important. So you're going to tell them what you want them to remember from this. If you're starting a conversation with someone, it's a really good idea to say, hey, listen, I want to talk to you about this. And the outcome that I want to produce at the end is this. Here's what I want us to. So you're actually pulling them into the outcome rather than hoping that the outcome happens. You're letting them know ahead of time, like, this is what I'm highlighting for you. Repeat the stuff that is actually important too, okay? A is for address them when you speak. So you know what I notice about you? People love to hear that. Dale Carnegie says that people, the one thing people love more than talking about themselves is hearing about themselves, right? So when you address somebody personally, they pay attention and they actually lean in a lot, okay? R is for repeatable. And the way that you can actually make your information repeatable is through stories and phrases, analogies, metaphors. Those are the things that stick for people. So if you can use those illustrative things, people remember more. E is for emotion. If they feel it, they believe it. And so a lot of that goes back to talking about the vulnerable emotional stuff that has happened for you, which can help them connect as well. So stand out, highlight what's important, address them directly, make sure that what you're saying is repeatable, and make sure there's emotion charged in it. And if you can remember all of those things, you will be making impact in people's lives with the message that you bring to them, whether it's just one-on-one conversation or in front of a whole crowd.
This is good stuff. There's no excuse now for somebody out there not to make an impact.
Correct.
Yeah, so just do it. Becomes habit, right?
It does, yes, absolutely.
That's cool. What's next week?
We don't know yet.
We don't know yet?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm open for suggestions.
Keep throwing them at me. All right, we're going to take a break here. We'll see you again next week on Good Vibes. See you later. This segment was brought to you by St. Martin and Bork. Know your rights.